Hey, what's up, y'all? What's up, y'all? So today on Conversations with Coach Black, man, is presented by the I'm Just Saying podcast, man. Today we are talking about mental health when it comes to athletes, man. Mental health is a big thing in the community, big thing in the society. I mean, a lot of these athletes have a lot of pressure that whether it's coming from their parents, whether it's coming from their peers, whether it's coming from kids at school, at home, social media. It's a lot of situations that these kids be in where they feel like they got to keep up with the Joneses. You know what I mean? And some athletes are more mentally strong than others. And some aren't. You know what I mean? We just had a situation with the Vikings player, that just ended his life, whatever the case may be. And it's just unfortunate. So as parents and as coaches, we always got to check on these athletes' mental, you know what I mean, and make sure they're not getting too into, the social media stuff to where you feel like you got to do this, you got to do that, man. Just stay at your own pace, man. Stay confident, you know what I mean. Just believe in who you are and the skills that you're obtaining to be able to get where you need to be. You know what I'm saying? So once again, like, mental health is a big thing, and you guys just need to understand that checking on your kids, speaking positivity to your kids, you know what I mean? You don't always got to be rah-rah with your kids. I know in this day and age, people feel like, you know what I mean, when it comes from a parent to, kid relationship, like, we're more softer than how we were raised, and you know what I mean? That's a different subject, for a different time. But in my opinion, from my experience, you know what I mean, you can be hard on your kids, but you also know when and when not to do it. You know what I mean? And I think there's certain situations you should do it, and there's certain situations you shouldn't. You know what I mean? Like, don't always, harp on your kid about everything. You know what I mean? You got to let them grow and, let them live at a point in time too. And I just feel like, when it comes to, having an athlete, you know what I mean, you want to build confidence. You know what I mean? You don't want to always put them down or, make it seem like they got to watch you every time they're in the game and you're in the stands, or, just whatever the case may be. You just want to build confidence with your kids to know that, hey, when they do good, you know what I mean, I'm going to point out, those qualities that you are doing good. When you're doing bad, yes, we're always going to have a powwow as far as, what you need to do, how you need to get better. But always, have a balance as far as, when it comes to your kids and these athletes and coaches with these athletes on, having a balance on how you want to approach, coaching different or approach parenting different. You know what I mean? So there's always a way to do things, but these kids always, have a battle even at school to where, kids might be better than others, you know what I mean? And, there's like kind of like a pissing contest to where, you know what I mean? Hey, I'm doing this better than you. I'm doing this, I'm doing that. And then, kids kind of get in their head sometimes where they feel like they lose confidence, you know what I mean? Then losing confidence, you know what I mean? You not might be getting the playing time you need, or you might not feel like you're where you are as an athlete. And then, you know what I mean, they get into depression mode. And the depression mode can always lead to other things. So you guys just got to make sure that you're always keeping the confidence and the energy and the positivity on a higher note than than the negativity, because that can do something to certain kids and certain individuals that just can't handle it. You know what I mean? As a coach, you can't approach every kid the same. You know what I mean? So you got to find a balance and find who this kid actually is. You know what I mean? As far as how you want to approach to coaching them. And you'll learn that with time. But if you're really invested in these kids and want the best for these kids, you'll really find out, what's going on. Because a lot of these kids, you know what I mean, like, their upbringing is different from others, you know what I mean? And they might be having a rough time at home, you know what I mean? And the environment's not right. And they get to, under the coach's wings, and they're getting the same thing they're getting at home. And that's not a good relationship to have to get the max potential out of these kids. So once again, you just got to find a balance, you know what I mean? And it's very possible. Like I said, you just got to really understand who these kids are, their background, you know what I mean, their support system, whatever the case may be. And you got to just be helpful to these kids, you know what I mean, as far as their mental, because like I said, this day and age is all about offers and, you know what I mean, who's getting what and who's doing this, instead of just running your own race and just being in your own bag and being confident at what you do. So I hope you guys are following me on that. So, you know, there's a lot of mental things that happen out there that get these kids, you know, kind of off track, you know what I mean? And it starts with you as a parent at home, you know what I mean, on the way to school, you know what I mean, after games, you know what I mean? There's always an approach that you need to have, you know what I mean, and a plan to get the best out of your child, you know what I mean, and your athlete. So, you know, in my experience, you know, I done had my fair share of, you know, trying to figure things out. And I still don't know everything, you know what I mean? But I'm still learning, you know what I mean, and learning from others and, you know what I mean, having talks with others about how you need to approach it, you know what I mean? Because I haven't always been the best at that, but that's why I'm just speaking from my experience. Athletes are, you know, they deal with a lot of pressure in their rare form, you know what I mean? So it's just like you guys gotta be able to find a medium on how to approach things, because they deal with a lot, man. They really deal with a lot. It's tough to stay, you know, the same every day and, you know, try to stay focused every day. So just be mindful of that, you know what I mean, when it comes to being an athlete in sports, it's, you know, they take on a lot. So just be mindful of that and, you know, try to put your best foot forward and just, like I said, instill good principles and character in your kids to not, you know what I mean, get into the, you know, he say, she say, or, you know what I mean, just the follower mentality, you know what I mean, well, I'm going to do this because he's doing it, you know what I mean, like just make sure they're running at their own pace, you know what I mean, and everything else will settle itself out. So, you know, it's we always hear each year, you know what I mean, guys like, you know what I mean, whether it's in sports and in music, entertainment, that, you know, take themselves out the game because, you know, you don't really know what they're going through. And it's not just people who are struggling. It's people who have money too as well. We done seen both sides, you know what I mean? So it's not really about, you know, having money or you broke or, you know what I mean, struggling or you're wealthy. It's just about, you know, what you're going through mentally, you know what I mean? That's a battle each day, you know what I mean? You got to take each day, you know what I mean, just one day at a time, I'm saying, you know what I'm saying? So just be mindful, you know what I mean? It doesn't really matter your status. Like, everybody can go through the same thing. So as an athlete, you just want to make sure, like I said, you staying confident and you're just doing what you need to do. You know what I mean? Always lean on your support system. Communicate with your kids. You know what I mean? A lot of parents I see, they don't even communicate with these kids, let alone be at a practice or anything like that. So you just got to find out what's really going on and how you can be some service to help your kid, because don't just be there when stuff is going good for your kid. You know what I mean? Be there, you know, through the rough times to help them, you know, deal with adversity, you know what I mean? And to build them headstrong, because there's a lot of people out there, you know what I mean, that these athletes go through when they get to the next level, and they might get the bag, but mentally they're not strong enough to do what they need to do with the bag, you know what I'm saying? But that starts at home with the parents, you know what I mean? So just like I said, be of service and go through all the emotions that being an athlete with your kid that you can go through. You know what I mean? There's always room for improvement. So just be mindful of that and, you know, just keep putting your best foot forward. And I feel like, you know, the more we do that as parents and as coaches, the better these kids will be. You know what I mean? There's always something that you can be doing that's better. You know what I mean? You always want to, at the end of the day, reflect on your day and figure out, you know, what you could have said better, what you could have done better. You know what I mean? Like, we can always talk that talk, but are we putting that action forward when it comes to that? So just be mindful of that, you know what I mean, just to my audience and stuff like that, because it's, like I said, it's a hell of a job to wake up, you know what I mean, and get paid to play sports. You know what I mean? It's a hell of a job to do what you love to do, and if that's what your kid wants to do and really wants to be an athlete, you know what I mean, be all in with your kid, because you can't half-ass it with your kid and expect them to be the best that they gonna be, because they gonna see that. You know what I mean? They know who's been there, they know who's supporting, you know what I mean, who's giving good game to them for them to take it on as far as youth, high school, college, and on to the pros. So, you know what I mean, just make sure that, you know, we're giving the right advice, and we're really, you know, making sure mentally that these kids are doing what they need to do, because it's just hard and it's tough. So just be mindful of that, you know what I mean? And I hope everybody, you know, puts their best foot forward when it comes to that, and really builds on this segment today as far as mental, you know what I mean? Because like I said, it can be hard, you know what I mean? It really can. Like, it takes a real focus and discipline to do the right thing every day, you know what I mean, and not get caught in all this social media stuff and what's going on, and pillow talking, you know what I mean. It's tough. So build your kids mentally strong, you know what I mean, especially if they have the real opportunity to go further, you know what I'm saying? And it's not just sports, you know what I mean, it's life, period, you know what I mean. There's always going to be obstacles and, you know, stuff that's going to be in your way to try to break you down as a person, you know what I mean? Everybody are going through things, and some people bring that to their job. Some people bring that to the court, to the field, or whatever respective sport that you playing, and you got to be able to just block that out and stay focused, and just be disciplined on the task at hand. So, you know, that's my take for today, man. I hope everybody have a good day. God bless you.